Hello, Trashfuture listeners. Just a quick heads up, we have a live show at Vauxhall Comedy Club in London on Wednesday, March 2nd at 8 p.m. That is tomorrow night. There's a link in the show notes to get tickets. Thank you. Hope to see you there, and please enjoy this episode.
Hello, all you cool cats in Radioland. Thank you very much for tuning in. That was Sade's Smooth Operator. And we now go to Drive Time morning radio host Milo, who's going to tell us exactly what the hell is going on and which episode this is. Milo?
Smooth Spetsnaz Operator. Thank you. It's the free one.
It's the free one!
There we go.
Ah, there we go.
In light of intelligence assessed, we have upgraded the likelihood of it being the free one from probable to certain.
The International Committee of Atomic Scientists has moved the free one clock.
The clock to the free one. Yeah, it is now 0 minutes to the free one.
Well, actually,
troops have advanced through the Chernobyl exclusion zone into the free one.
No, boy, is it
Current events are happening.
Have you heard of these current events?
I have.
They're current, baby.
So it's TF. Another day, another version of me. Not version of me. I guess unless I'm reborn every day.
Another prestige clone of Riley.
Yeah, another clone of me tries to mess with Milo when he does the radio voice intro because I still find it annoying.
Once again,
Riley gets drowned in the vat again and replaced
After
with another
every podcast, Riley is killed.
Yeah.
Replaced by another one.
Once again, we are forced to try and do a comedy, politics, and tech podcast in a world that is not very comedic.
In a world.
It gets a little more difficult sometimes, and this is one of those times.
Although I do think, right, like, okay, we're going to talk a little bit about current. No, number one, if you haven't heard her, it's Abby. Hi, Abby.
Hello. It's nice to be here. It's nice to be back on TF. Returning champion, getting access to various lounges.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Fresh from filming in the Donbass.
Absolutely. Why? What is a fake country? What does that mean?
No,
so
would you say that Ukraine is a lacuna, like politically, geographically, spiritually,
intellectually?
So look, we're going to talk a little bit about sort of the various goings on. I think mostly, if not entirely, focused on on something that at least I feel much more comfortable commenting on, which is how this is being used domestically in the UK to advance sort of political goals here.
Sure.
And then we're going to do a startup, and then we're going to talk about an episode we've actually been planning for a while, and we're not letting fucking events overtake us.
No.
Yeah, because events only really began at time of recording this morning.
Yeah.
So they're fair enough to let them play out a little bit before you get the official TF.
Exactly. Which I know, everyone's waiting for. It's all the red phones have been replaced by smartphones, and they're all on their podcast apps.
A donation link for the Russian army is going to be in the show notes if you want to support.
I mean, the thing is, we can't give you the official TF take yet, but you can get the official Alice Caldwell-Kelly take, which is, I was right. I have always been right. I've never been wrong about anything ever. History has vindicated me once again, and handed all of the worst people on Twitter a huge L. So...
What I love about this, Alice, is that the reason why you got this right is for an incredibly Alice-like nerd reason.
This is the thing, right?
The parachutes on Russian BCRs.
So if you're not aware, basically, I thought that Russia would occupy the other bit of Ukraine when no one else did, pretty much. And the reason why is because this was politically implausible to absolutely everyone. Everyone has been shocked by it because it seemed unthinkable. Nobody has enough autism apart from me because although it was politically impossible, it was the only thing militarily that made sense. And the tipping point for me was when I saw a video of like a convoy of BMDs, like light armored vehicles with parachutes on them so they could airdrop them. And I thought, okay, well, if you send everybody out to dig trenches and then you just bring them home, fine. That's like a waste of time, but that's an average one. Those have got to be a real pain in the ass to like rig to the thing. So you really only want to do those if you're like going.
Alice has now been
I was
appointed military advisor to the British government. So
Yeah.
congratulations
That's right.
on your new position, Alice.
Yeah.
Changing my @ to Alice Analysis, becoming an OSINT guy now. Yeah, absolutely.
I want to sort of mention this for a while, and I actually want to mention it in the context of Ben Wallace, our defense secretary, getting. So I don't know if he was expecting to be sort of recorded when he was saying this, but he said that.
He said, "Oh fuck!"
No, quite the opposite. He said, "We kicked the backside of the Tsar in Crimea, and we can always do it again." And I just take that comment, right, and compare it to like the increasingly
That's so cool.
unhinged shit that like Putin is saying about like, oh, the West is going to sneak nukes into Ukraine or whatever. And what you can see, right, is two countries that have both just like had the copper wire stripped out of the walls like quite a while ago, being run by like an immovable clique of just like people who believe that their and their society's best days are behind them, and whose grip on reality is, I don't know, I guess at least because we mostly talk about the UK, we can say confidently about the UK fucking slipping. Then I mean, it almost makes sense that in the Cold War, when everyone was like ready for it, when these were the states and societies, for better or for worse, at the pinnacle of their abilities, that they didn't slip into doing what's happening now. And yet, I think it makes a weird sort of cosmic sense that while all of these places are in terminal decline, that's when the confrontation happens.
Well, Putin's just been watching Octopussy too much, and now he's convinced that someone's going to be smuggling a nuclear bomb across the border. And the only hope is an elderly Roger Moore.
An elderly Roger Moore and General Gogol.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I'm genuinely fascinated by like the kind of like the huge army of libs online who are saying that like the West should bring in these like devastating sanctions against Russia, quote unquote, to collapse the Russian economy, as though the Russian economy isn't already collapsed.
Yeah, and the thing is, you want to know who fucking collapsed it is motherfuckers like Browder and the Chicago Boys who went in and like did the shock therapy. If you want to know why the society's in terminal decline, ask them.
But by the same token, I am like, I've been just getting incredibly mad at everyone online today because there's just so many stupid takes in both directions. Like, this is like such an unprecedented act of Russian foreign policy aggression. Like, the fact that most people didn't predict it doesn't make them stupid. It means that they're like, they just didn't think Putin was this insane, because it makes no geopolitical sense. It's like wildly lashing out. It's a crazy action. And like, anyone who's saying that like this is the result of like NATO fucking provocation, like, needs to give their fucking head a wobble, right? Because like NATO does lots of bad shit. It has done bad shit. There's lots of elements of politics in Eastern Europe which are NATO's fault. This is like Putin is fucking on one for no reason. This is insane.
I don't welcome what President Putin has done, and I would not call on him to go any further.
In fact, I would call on him to retreat somewhat.
Well, like, the other thing is, right, that like, this is like talking about this in like primarily a domestic political lens, right? Is I think important, because the West, NATO, as much as like people like to talk about NATO as like provocateurs here, NATO is utterly powerless here, and has been forced to like drop off a bunch of admittedly very nice missiles to the Ukrainians, and then just go, well, good luck, have fun. I'm not getting involved. I am simply leaving ahead of this so as not to start a nuclear war. And so everything that you see anyone post about what NATO should be doing, should NATO be stationing troops in Ukraine, anything like this, it's not possible. It's fantasy. And it's just this sort of like attempt to cope with this horrible thing that is happening before our eyes, where for like the first time in a long while, people who are not used to being powerless, people who like to make policy and who are like quite blasé about it, now themselves do feel powerless.
What if we painted some of the crossings on the road with the Ukrainian flag? Would that help?
It's an option, I won't lie.
Well,
we could add Ukraine month to the roster of months that we have.
I mean, again, this is stuff that's being done definitely by a nation and society that's still definitely on the up and up and a going concern.
It's over for Vladimir Putin. He's pissed off, led by donkeys now. They're going to put up a very satirical billboard of him.
I didn't want to do this, and I say this knowing that it may well start World War III, but Vladimir
Oh
Putin.
my god. No. But the
there's gonna be a gafferendum, which is that's Russian for woof.
just replying to Putin online, just calling him bald.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, perfect. I mean, you might as well. I mean,
I can't. His Twitter account's gone.
oh shit.
Yeah, they suspended him
Yeah.
merely.
I'm gonna miss all his
for
tweets
what?
about restaurants.
For what? You tell me for what? For merely for invading Ukraine again?
Sorry, is that not on the terms of service? But
Typical biased moderation.
I also want to point out, right, that the other, as with most things, right, most sort of big events in the world, the British sort of press, government, you might say, sort of all of these institutions that we talk about have once again used this as like, and again, bearing in mind what you said about NATO is absolutely true, Alice, right? Like, love them or hate them, they can't fucking do much. No. And also, like, I think, yeah, and like, you know, this is that what they're saying is, imagine if fucking Corbyn was in charge, he'd probably be like, hey, Putin, why don't you invade? Like, just these people just off in their own, like, you know, worlds of fantasy, right?
Writing their own, like, Jeremy Corbyn slash fiction. Like, yeah, if Jeremy Corbyn was in charge, you'd probably go right up to Putin and, like, grab him by the tie and be like, hey, you want me to suck you off, big boy? And then he'd probably start undoing his trousers and, I need to go to the bathroom.
Milo, you forget that was a real thing. Do you remember Jeremy Corbyn and the 100 Days That Broke Britain, which was, like, a complete fictional account of Corbyn's prime ministership that was published in the British newspapers, which included Putin. I think it ended with Putin invading or like buying large sections of the British state. That's a real thing that happened.
Awesome.
Yeah, and like I think, you know,
the Conservative Party would never sell off large sections of the British state to a foreign interest. That would never happen.
And I think that's another thing to point out, right? A lot of people are like, it's like people in the Labour Party, like Chris Bryant as well, are being like, that's because the Conservatives took money from Russians. And I think, again, that sort of misses the point. The Russians, the Russian oligarchs don't stash money here for Russian reasons and launder it, which they called it Britain the laundry. They don't launder it for Russian reasons. They launder it for rich people reasons.
Yeah, and I presume that the systems that allow them to do that are the same systems that allow like Saudi billionaires to do that and like British billionaires to do that, who like donate to the Conservative Party, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
If I had to guess.
And also Ukrainian billionaires who also quite like stashing their money in London. These are just rich people doing rich people shit.
Also true, but like this kind of like globalization, which we are now finding out, like fatally hinders our attempt to wage economic warfare against Russian billionaires. Like
70 years of peace in Europe. It's going to continue whether we want it to or not.
I'm so old that I remember that was a selling point of globalization, that like we won't be able to make war on each other because all of our economies will be so tied together. And now that's sort of
oh god,
now sort of that's gone from being like, well, we're all in a flat share to one of us has a bomb vest on.
I mean, do you know there was a famous economics paper that said, well, war between great powers is entirely impossible because of the economic interlinkings between them. That if Germany were to invade the UK and steal all the gold in the vault, that they would actually bankrupt themselves because of credit interlinking. And this paper was written in 1913.
Awesome.
Well, like, yeah, absolutely.
Well, if Germany had invaded Britain, that might have happened. We don't know.
I think, like, you know, to sort of refocus it, right, on the UK, right, is that I think the UK's rhetoric, which is of a combination of extremely bellicose, if not from like Boris Johnson, who I think is has basically, I don't know, been told in no uncertain terms, make it very clear we're not sending anybody there, but from people who maybe haven't got that same very stern briefing, right?
Yeah. From Chris Bryant again,
but I think
weirdly
the rhetoric from them, I think, as you've said, Alice, right? You said to me, this is a function of the British states, like huge commitment to like neoliberalism and globalization of the flavor that we've had so much that like, whether on a moral level, whether or not they want to do it, they've been rendered incapable. And you had a very good metaphor for this.
And we didn't have time to write notes, and it's gone.
I wrote it.
Brain. Tell me what I said. Tell me what I said. I'm excited to hear how smart
the
I sound.
opposite of silencing women, actually telling them what they said earlier when they've forgotten.
We can cut this. I did write all the notes. I just forgot to share them because I was so distracted.
It's fine.
What you said was, we've been coming to terms with our own irrelevance for 70 years, but we're just Wile E. Coyote, and we're further and further over the edge of the cliff. And we're almost about to fall, but we haven't looked down yet.
Yeah, we're just Wile E. Coyote, except we just kept going. We're like 2/3 of the way into a marathon, and we still haven't started falling. And like the whole job of the financial industry is to make sure we never look back at the sign that says, look down, and then we start falling.
Yeah,
we inadvertently built our economy on like, say, some hundred number of weird billionaires.
Yeah. Well, sorry, the bit that's not Raytheon.
Yeah, exactly. Off of building missiles, which is a fucking growth industry for us right now, I'll say that much. And sort of like crime, just money laundering for billionaires. And it turns out that once you try to select which of those billionaires you want based on nationality, it gets quite difficult to disentangle them.
Look, I think that's. I don't want to dwell on this, too much. I mean, it's going to be something that certainly is, weighing on my mind.
Nobody knows anything yet. It's impossible to verify anything other than that this is the most dangerous moment in European foreign policy in all of our lifetimes so far.
Goodbye, unipolar world. Later.
Yeah, an immense human tragedy. Probably something that like a lot of Russians are also baffled by, but
100%.
powerless to prevent.
Yeah.
Something that Alice and I can definitively say, though, is this is probably going to have a massive impact on the future of the James Bond franchise.
Almost certainly.
That's right. We'll have to do a whole season 2 of
like,
James Bond.
We are going to make more James Bond movies by creating conditions where they are still relevant.
Yes. Yeah. Thankfully,
Russian bad guys from now on, baby.
Absolutely. What if Vladimir Putin had a facial disfigurement so you knew he was evil?
Well, it is Russian bad guys from now on, and I can't wait to see someone act out the Bond theme song in front of a fire on a brick wall. It's gonna be great.
Literally, I was in Prague at the weekend, hanging out more or less exclusively with Russians and Kazakhs, and like, first of all, everyone was like, "What the fuck is all this Ukraine shit?" Like, no one could make head nor tail of it. And then, second of all, everyone was like, "Why do you not go back to Russia for 6 months to work on stand-up special?" And like, well, definitely won't be doing that now.
Also, before I go on to the startup, because God love me, I did get one. I also want to say, when I say bi unipolar world, it's not like the multipolar world that, like, to be honest, we've been in for a while. It's just there's no denying it now. The Wile E. Coyote of the unipolar world has now looked down, right?
Sure.
But like, he's been off the cliff for, I don't know, a fucking while, like maybe since like 2010. But I don't mean like, goodbye unipolar world, I will miss you, because like, it's on a sort of, on a bigger level, right? The Pax Americana was like a slow news day, but it certainly wasn't much of a Pax for a lot of people.
Yeah, it was safer for us and people like us, but it made a lot of other people considerably less safe in its time.
It's not to say even that now is safer. It's just a different kind of unsafe, and it's not an unsafe that it's as easy to, I don't know, like hide from at the IKEA, basically. So,
are you saying that some contradictions are being heightened?
Once again, I think the contradiction heightener, Vladimir Putin
went into his office and he has like turned the big dial that says contradictions upwards.
Look, okay, I'm done. I'm done talking about this because I want to stop thinking about it for. I want to stop thinking about it for 40 minutes and then for another hour when we read the terrible book that I read. I want you all to join the movement. It's called Lobby 3. It's a Web3 project.
Lobby 3.
Now, who's got an idea?
Is this lobbying? Is this lobbying in the sense of like political lobbying, or is it in the sense of like a foyer?
It's going to allow me to buy governance tokens in government.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Oh my god, fucking nailed it in one! Yes!
Awesome.
Yes, you are invited to join the movement. You can mint your membership token. It just costs you, honestly, like all cryptocurrencies have been shown to be a risk-on asset because Bitcoin, quote-unquote, digital gold has fucking cratered with the rest of the stock market. So I'm not going to say how much money it costs in American dollars or British pounds, but it costs 0.07 Ethereum just to join at a level 1, which is like much more expensive than membership in a political party.
But where is the power and what does it do? What am I actually buying?
Well, thank you very much for asking, Abby. Lobby 3 is a new Web3 community designed to give the people a stronger voice in Washington, D.C. so we can build a prosperous economic future together. We are looking to decentralize economic opportunity, eliminate barriers to financial inclusion.
Oh, it's going to be some fake going on the computer bullshit again, isn't it?
Oh, so it's a lobbying company, but exactly what they lobby about is up to the people who buy governance tokens in it.
And the more governance tokens you buy,
the more you get to influence what the lobby company
does.
Do they actually have because to be a lobbying company, you need more than just money, right? You need to actually have contacts. You need to know people.
You know what you're doing? You're taking what I wanted to reveal at the very end of the segment and putting it up front.
I'm too good.
So you're too good. So,
Abby, do you want the gamer horns, considering you're ghosted on the sticks right now?
Give her the gamer horns.
Thank you.
So, because we all guessed it so quickly, I'm going to ask another question. Who is behind Lobby 3, noting that they were in American politics and they wanted to get a big job in 2020?
Donald Trump.
Surely not.
No, not Trump.
Aww.
They wanted to get a big job on the other team, but they
James
didn't.
Carville.
They didn't. Let's say
James
this.
Corden?
They. I don't know. All of what I said earlier, maybe I'll reconsider if James Corden's
I'm
involved.
not sure I've got a Corden in the locker. I'm trying to think.
I don't know. So I'll say they auditioned for the
We're doing lobbying, you fucking ledge.
They auditioned for the big job in 2020, and they weren't chosen by their party to run.
I mean, do you have any idea how little that narrows it down?
A failed Democratic.
Fuck. It's the billionaire Starbucks guy.
Close. Not him.
No.
Bloomberg.
No, Bloomberg would never get. Bloomberg would never.
I thought Delaney.
No, another one.
It was actually me, Vladimir Putin.
It was a billionaire who ran for president and did not win the Democratic primaries.
He might
Again,
not have been.
That's like 50 dudes, all of whom have the least memorable name in the world.
Okay, how about this? He was much beloved by some of the biggest idiots out there, but much beloved.
Tom Steyer, Jay Inslee,
James Corden.
Come on, you're missing the most obvious U.S. Democratic nominee for putative.
Yang?
Yep, there it is.
Is he a billionaire?
He's like a rich guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was Yang. Yang.
You could have given us attempted mayor of New York City.
Gang.
Yeah. I would have married it too easy.
I didn't know he was a billionaire.
So maybe he's not a billionaire, but he is a very rich man.
Attempted mayor of New York City is a very funny name for a crime.
So we are building. So Web3 basically, by building on the unique voice and influence of Andrew Yang and the Yang Gang.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Do they ever read this back to themselves?
Is Yang corporate social responsibility Black Lives Matter, or was that Buttigieg?
No, that was Buttigieg.
Okay.
Yang's thing was being like a libertarian tech outsider, which is not something you would typically associate
like a
with
UBI
lobbying.
guy.
All right, so this kind of this fits.
But he's decentralizing lobbying, quote unquote, only, and because usually lobbying is just whoever can pay the most money. Right, they get to influence the policy, but that has to be done through a relationship, a briefcase, maybe meeting in a smoky bar. Now you can just buy a governance token, and we've taken another cool thing out of the world, which is clandestine lobbying and bribing and things like that. That's gone now.
You used to have to go to the Washington Monument at 3 a.m. and hand over a briefcase, and now you just fucking send a guy a text message. Just bullshit.
We put lobbying on the damn phone.
Well, I can understand the desire to say, okay, let's make lobbying more transparent and more obvious and give people more of a say in it. But you could do the same thing by just publishing it on a website.
Well, no, we want to, because we like how much people can use their money to get their voices heard more. We just want that to be also a heavily financialized process.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you don't need to do that with a blockchain.
Well, he does because the other.
So why shouldn't you?
Of course.
And the other thing is,
yeah.
the people behind this want to do it as per usual with any Web3 thing. Is when I say, oh, that's gone. No, that lobbying is still going to be mainly briefcase. This is just a way to get the person in charge of it the briefcase.
Yeah, when
obviously
all you
this
have
is never
is a
going to do
scam,
anything.
everything looks like London Bridge, I guess.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like that.
I mean,
well, it certainly did to Fergie, who put Tower Bridge on the album cover for London Bridge.
So this is
that's a laser grudge to still be annoyed by years.
I'm not
later.
even annoyed by it. I just think it's such a fun little piece of music trivia that they went and looked at London Bridge and they were like, "Oh, we thought it was the other one. Oh well."
It's for you. It's a real, I'd say, eidetic memory of stuff that happened in the early to mid 2000s.
That's right, and that's the only thing I'll ever remember. I've got that kind of dementia where you don't form new memories.
Yeah, you've got.
I'm like the memento guy.
You're the memento guy, but you're still like wearing skinny
you have, like,
low-rise
a
jeans.
Polaroid of Fergie with "Do not listen to her lies."
I can't form new memories. I'm trying to find out who told Fergie that was London Bridge.
Welcome to Memento 2. Boring and out of date.
Yeah.
Guy,
it's not boring.
So basically, they think like, look, we're gonna have this token. It's gonna be heavily financialized. We think it's worth 0.07 Ethereum. Or if you want to be an advocate, you can spend either some thousands, or depending on when this comes out, some tens, hundreds, possibly tens of thousands. Who can say? Of pounds or nothing
Yeah.
on a full Ethereum, making you an advocate, or you can spend like 40 Ethereum, however much that's worth in a few days, on being a founder. So what do you get?
I think, right, we should get in on this because we know that the crypto market is like extremely volatile and stupid. All we have to do is time it right, and then for a brief shining moment until this collapses too, we could have a lobbyist and we could get past all of the like various bullshit laws that each of us want, which I mean that's fertile territory right there.
Yeah,
Transition becomes compulsory.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
class
legal
includes,
to carry around like 18 different canisters of pepper spray at the same time.
Civics class includes identifying when a military vehicle is about to be used for realsies.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I like the idea of making transition compulsory for everyone. Like, you're not trying to make more people be of one gender or another. You're just trying to swap everyone. Whatever you're currently not, you're now that.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
first should be last, and the last should be first.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what you
It's
get?
it's like changing ends at half time.
So you
Everyone
get,
swaps shirts.
What the funny thing is, right, that all of these DAOs, these Web3 foundations or whatever you want to call them, like they all end up selling the same thing. It's just like a reskin of the theme. So this one's lobbying themed, other ones will be music themed or whatever. But all you ever really get is like an Ask Me Anything with the founder, the opportunity to buy merch, and the ability to vote on whatever they let you vote on. And to getting into a Discord. That's what you get.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Love
I
to be
can
on
get
the
into
Discord is
with
real
Andrew
bad.
Yang.
Yeah, if you'd like to join the Trashfuture Discord, you can subscribe to our Patreon for $5 a month.
If you'd like to get into like an extremely niche argument with Andrew Yang about like what the mods did 3 weeks ago and whether or not like minor attracted persons should be allowed in this particular fucking room of the
my
Discord,
God.
why not spend several $1,000s doing that?
Or
I'm sorry,
tens or
one
none.
of
Or none.
Andrew Yang's moderators has turned out to like have hijacked his Discord for their own ends.
That's why I deleted mine. Discord is bad. This is investment advice. Never go on Discord.
You also get
Apart from ours.
at level. Yeah, go on ours. Ours is quite chill.
Ours is very nice.
At level
For
2.
now.
At level 2. Is that a threat?
No, I'm just saying.
Abby's gonna go in there.
That's what happens. That's what always happens with Discord. Is
Oh,
it
God,
always becomes drama.
A BTG is parked outside our Discord, and it does look like the parachutes are rigged up to it. So you also get, as an advocate for a full Ethereum, you get VIP event access. So you get to go hang out with Andrew Yang at an event at BitcoinCon 22.
Yo,
in April.
that sounds like the most rancid event you could possibly be at.
Yeah.
I mean, just
How did they call it Bitcoin Con when Bitcoin was
Bitcoin
right there?
It's just called Bitcoin 2022, but I wanted to make it clear that's what I was saying. Also, you get there's like a line to get dapped up by the president of El Salvador. Oh, I really hate that.
this is the swin zone, but for libertarians. It
Why
fucking
couldn't Putin have
sucks.
invaded there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Putin, our country yearns for freedom.
Yeah.
I fully support deploying the VDV into the like fucking geothermal
BitcoinCon.
volcano Bitcoin plant that they have in El Salvador because I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, they should just make it like VDV Day in El Salvador, and just the guys all get so drunk in their telnyashkas and just like beat everyone up, drink loads, like piss on all the Bitcoin mining rigs, and then
Trying to
destroy the
get James
infrastructure.
Acaster to persuade them to go in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Come on, tell us. Let's crack on.
Come on, guys! I hate Bitcoin. Some people like Bitcoin. I'm not in their number.
So for like a huge amount of money, or depending on how things go, a small amount of money of 40 Ethereum.
Or a medium amount of money.
Maybe it's just like £100.
Yeah.
Which is like a large amount of money on a daily basis, but like considering what they're asking for.
Right now, it's at time of recording, it's about $2,000, which is not a lot of money to get a lobbyist, as far as I'm concerned.
That's like a share in a lobbyist.
Oh,
because they could just mint more tokens.
Timeshare lobbying.
They can mint more tokens, then inflation takes away your real lobbying power.
Hang on a minute. What happens if people buy tokens in the lobbyist, but they want contradictory things?
Well,
the lobbyist has to become a dialecticist. And resolve those himself. I mean,
which place the United States government?
One group of them want to trans everyone one way, and one group of them want to trans everyone the other way. I mean, and the compromise is everyone becomes non-binary.
Luckily, this is all a moot point because this is all crypto guys. There's only one lobbying position that crypto guys want, which is to lower the age of consent.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Or also like the other thing that crypto guys want is they either want to be able to use crypto to like buy a Denny's Grand Slam, or alternatively a special bracelet that unlocks your supercar remotely.
Sorry, a really stupid switch flipped in my brain, and now I think crypto guy is agenda.
The crypto guy flag.
Yeah. So what do you get?
God,
what do you get
I'm a top secret dude.
Buying a governance token in someone else's gender and be like, I'm sorry, you're trans.
Black Ops guy.
So for 40,000 American dollars, or etc.
Or
400
or 9.
Yeah, but for 40,000 as of recording, you can get one-on-one access to Andrew Yang. Which is
why is that phrase like it makes it easier to kill him? Like
to fuck him?
Yeah. No, it's like, you know what it is? Alex, it's like in the movie Hero.
Agent 47 access to Andrew Yang is going to turn his back to you while looking over a balcony with a really steep drop beneath it.
No, it's like in Hero. You can approach 10 paces closer to Andrew Yang. So you also can go to like. If you have an event, you can bring Andrew Yang as a keynote speaker. It seems more like just a way to meet Andrew Yang.
What's the funniest event to bring Andrew Yang to, would you say?
Warhammer tournament.
Russian invasion of Ukraine.
Yeah, absolutely. You could like, it's like a cheat code. You could be like, yes, we're getting Andrew Yang using the irrefutable blockchain. We're actually going to have him speak at a quote unquote conference on the road from Chernobyl.
Grainy footage of Andrew Yang flying above Kharkiv, stiff-bodied like Superman.
If you're an LGBT person, you can take an advocate with you when you go to the doctor. That I would make Andrew Yang do that.
Perfect.
Andrew Yang has to like go to the GIC with you.
Yeah, and explain why you need the hormones. Yeah,
he's giving you a very, very Whiggish view of your transition.
Here's another interesting one: VIP intimate access group meetings.
So you all fuck each other, or
it's an off-the-record group meeting with a policy leader.
Sex cult that Andrew Yang is starting.
Well, you know what it is? It sounds like Bohemian Grove, but where they don't do any of the Bohemian Grove stuff. It's just like it's Bohemian Grove for people that really want to talk about crypto policy.
Bohemian Grove, but instead of an owl, it's an ape.
That's right.
Yeah, there's a tier where Andrew Yang offers you €200 on the streets of Prague and asks if you want to come back to his place and whether you like dick.
So where the money goes basically is direct advocacy efforts and infrastructure building, community engagements, operations, and artists, and some technical work. And mostly where I think it does is just goes to, again, associate a famous person with a Web3 token and then allow that token to pump, baby.
Yeah, we're doing Yang coin. It's just disguised as lobbying or whatever.
Yeah, the part of Matt Damon will now be played by Andrew Yang.
Yeah, that's right. So anyway, that's Lobby 3. I always like to do a startup occasionally when I'm feeling a little, out of sorts. So now I want to talk about
get back in the swing of things.
I want to talk about, of course, to get back out of the swing of things before we get back into the swing of things again by reading a terrible book.
How everything is terrible.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons that we wanted to sort of get together today, this episode we've been planning for a while, is I'd like to talk about the EHRC, what the concepts it promulgates actually mean, and how these are vulnerable to political capture.
That's right. We're finally taking down the Equalities and Human Rights Commission.
Mm-hmm. The answers to your questions are bad, nothing, and very.
So, Abby, let's talk about this a little bit, right? The EHRC has of course a statutory duty to protect the interests of trans and non-binary people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it has, let's say, as I understand it, has a mixed record of doing that. But let's say, very recently, the record has become more mixed to the worse.
Yeah, I'd say it's a bad mix. So recently, like a number of things have happened. A lot of this has been broken by Ben Hunt over at Vice, former LGBT correspondent for the BBC. But recently, like a number of things have happened. First of all, the EHRC U-turned on conversion therapy and GRA reform and wrote to the Scottish government and being like, "Hey, don't reform GRA. Conversion therapy is good, actually." And everyone was like, "What the fuck? Fuck off! No." So credit to the Scottish government for giving them the finger on that.
And the Scottish Human Rights Commission. So, like, the analogous body just for Hollywood also told them to get fucked. So
yeah,
you can force the Scottish government to do something good just by the English government doing something bad.
Yes, absolutely.
But then a number of like disturbing reports came out of the EHRC. One is that a bunch of staff have like resigned or faced disciplinary action for criticizing the body's increasing transphobia. One is that they've been holding secret meetings with transphobes. One is that the chair of the EHRC, Baroness Faulkner, has been using her parliamentary email address to secretly correspond with transphobic hate groups and change the wording on official documents per their request. And the most recent one, and apparently not the last, if rumor is to be believed, is that number 10 Downing Street, even though it's supposed to be independent from the EHRC, has actually been directly editing documents to make them more transphobic and indeed blocking pro-trans documents from being released. So it's not good.
And I think it's, in the context of this, I think it's good to remember, okay, well, what was the EHRC? How does it work, right? Much like many of the things we were talking about, like the way the Home Office works, for example, the EHRC was a new labor organ of quite fine-grained governmental control, where the theory of its creation was, again, whether or not it was created cynically, right? The theory of its creation was, we said, well, we are going to create, we new labor are going to build these instruments to interfere with people's lives to make them, as far as we're concerned, better.
Yeah, so the idea is that the EHRC can't pass laws, right? But they're supposed to be an independent body from all governments that issues interpretations of the laws and like makes recommendations, and in particular holds the government to account on its promises to do with human rights law.
Yeah, it's sort of like a regulatory body, but like not really. It's a bit like Ofgem or like Ofcom. It's off-gender.
And the thing is, right?
Kind of like the BBC in a way.
And much like the sort of directors of the BBC, the commissioners at the EHRC are political appointees. So they would be appointed by. Yes, exactly. In the case of the current director, Lord Faulkner, she was appointed by Liz Truss when she was Women's and Equalities Minister. And the king is, of course, this depends, and I think it depends on a very strange article of New Labour faith, a kind of almost prefigured the Obama-style faith of, well, we don't have to worry because demography means that we can build all of these fine-grained instruments of government control, and we can be pretty sure that we or someone similar to us is always going to be in charge of them.
Yeah, politics is over, and it's always going to be good, and so therefore we can just, make the making things good department and assume that it's, it's going to use its power wisely because everything's going to be fine.
Putting down my copy of Francis Fukuyama's The End of History and going, time to design an institution.
Well, I mean, on paper, it sounds like a good idea, right? It's like, well, we'll have an independent body who hold the government to account with regards to human rights. Like, I can understand how someone would think that's a good idea. I mean, trans people are not the first people that it's just decided to fucking shaft. I think the GRT community's been feeling their wrath for a while, as have disabled people. Mm-hmm. And like fucking everybody, to be honest.
And also, it's not to say either that when New Labour created this, that they were great and they were going to do good things with it. It's just, I think they didn't anticipate that because all of the things that New Labour built with a view to sort of technocratic fine-grained management of society which is again a kind of political management, right, are easily taken over by non-technocratic political managers.
Oh,
right?
no. But that's the thing we didn't want to happen.
Yeah. It's where basically what's happened is, this government has allowed, as basically, well, look, we're going to allow the edit. We think it's good that like all sort of, not just cultural policy, but like say health policy and stuff, because we have this one particular view of the world, we are going to allow more or less Spiked to run it all.
Yeah, I mean, also something that's been not surprising, but certainly disheartening to see is the degree to which the government have just gone, yeah, and it's good, actually. I mean, I don't want to use the word gaslighting, but that kind of is what Kemi Badenoch did when she got up in the comments and was just like, yeah, it's been disgusting to see all these like false and divisive claims made by Vice. And it's like, which claims exactly are false here? Because like, okay, I guess you could claim, actually, the staff who resigned, that never happened. It's not true. Vice just made it up. Okay, yeah, but we've fucking like seen the screenshots of the Baroness's emails to transphobic hate groups. Like, we know that she's been using her parliamentary email address to do this.
Have you considered that you're insane? Quite insane.
Oh, we're all insane.
More than most people, actually. I checked. I fucking checked. I paid to check.
And that's where you could ask.
Had to.
And that's like where I think it's you can ask like, okay, well, what do these concepts that were originally conceived of as non-political, equality, human rights, these concepts that are being trotted out as non-political but are nakedly political, like causing division. I think it's a way that once you sort of strip back the all of the ideological window dressing surrounding it, it's basically just a way of saying that New Labour created the Good Things for Being Good Commission, and then Kemi Badenoch says, you are saying the Good Things for Being Good Commission is bad because divisions is just things that are not supportive of us, not with us.
Yeah, exactly. Like and
yeah, in the same way that you would use like reopening old wounds for like a historical
vexatious
wrong
lawsuit,
or opening up new pork markets.
Yeah, very, very bad.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, this is a classic move that's been done for like probably like almost half a century. People did it to Kwame Ture when they were just like, oh, you're causing division. And he was like, I'm not. I'm drawing attention to divisions that already exist. In this case, like, Kemi Badenoch's just been like, fuck the haters. You guys are all just haters. You're being abusive online. When actually what people are doing is drawing attention to very obvious corruption in an equality and human rights body. And there's now calls for the EHRC to be downgraded at the UN, and that submission has been made. So we'll see whether that goes anywhere.
But Abby, it's only naked corruption if you can remember things or if you have object permanence. Whereas everyone in the British establishment and media has been hit on the head with a big hammer repeatedly every day since birth.
Yeah, and that hammer was originally designed by New Labour to hit apes
That's right.
instead. Now it's just
Tony
being
Blair
used
had
on
a
people.
dream of no ape going unconcussed, but he didn't imagine this hammer falling into the wrong hand.
And I mean, I think also on a more serious note, like I think there is a very real degree in this country to which harm to trans people is not seen as real. It's like, no, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter if you take trans people's rights away, because I mean, fuck them. And something that's like obvious but perhaps worth drawing attention to is that every MP, every member of the House of Lords, every board member of the EHRC, and every judge in this country ever is cisgender. There has never been a trans person in any of these positions of power. We've never been allowed to write or interpret any of these laws.
And
so this is what happens.
And even then, right, if let's say, right, the submission to the UN goes ahead, the EHRC is stripped of its recognition, say, as a equality and human rights divining body, then we know the playbook of the sort of British establishment, which is to say they're anti-British.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Of course they will.
Exactly.
And more and more this is happening, that like people outside Britain are noticing how shit we are and like all of the fucking awful things that we're doing, and even just observing it to themselves or each other, like the New York Times has done a couple of times, is enough to like inspire this like bit of wagon circling of like, no, actually everything we've ever done is correct, and we refuse to be lectured about this by people who have any perspective of this other than eating a lot of beef in the 90s.
And this incredible denial, because the Baroness wrote an article, I think it was in possibly The Guardian or The Observer, defending herself and saying, oh, there have been like a minority of critics who've been very abusive towards me online, because sticking up for trans people online is just equated with abuse now. But it's not a minority of people. It's every single major LGBT organization in the country, and several human rights groups have absolutely condemned pretty much every decision she's made in the last 2 months. There's huge calls for her to resign now, and she's like, it's just a minority of trolls online. It's not actually. Fucking everyone hates you.
The majority of trolls online are actually more concerned with bridge maintenance issues.
And the Billy Goat's gruff.
Yeah. This is where we live, and you are not ensuring the structural integrity.
Billy Goats are trip trapping across my bridge, and I need them to stop.
They're coming over here under the bridges where we, the troll. Now, I've got nothing against Billy Goats in and of themselves, but why is it that we can't look after our own British trolls what live under these British bridges, and we got to have these Billy Goats coming over here with their Islam?
That's right. Yeah, so this is another thing, right? Just before I want to move over as well, to think of the actual character of Baroness Faulkner herself, right? Where she is someone who I think has posted or thought about transphobia once, and now cannot, while getting involved in the EHRC, cannot stop breaking she's already won.
Riley's
There's one law that she's not broken.
Strikes again.
That's
the guiding principle. She also did an interview which said, I don't know what transphobia is. I don't even know what that means. And it's do you not think you should?
Did you find out?
Do you think maybe you should?
Can you not work it out based on the word?
Could you guess?
No, actually, I can't.
Oh, sorry. I thought everyone was talking about transphobia and the fear of trans.
I thought it was weird I wasn't in DFT, to be honest.
Yeah.
But basically, Faulkner, while she was in charge of the EHRC, would break the rules of the EHRC to be extra transphobic, thereby jeopardizing elements of the transphobia mission.
I mean, that's a classic of the genre. Yeah, that's being too spiteful for your own a program of spite is not just in relation to transphobia, but any number of things. It's a classic British government move.
The shaking hands meme between Baroness Faulkner and J.K. Rowling and Graham Linehan. It's all just being so transphobic that you tank your career.
Well, she's not tanked her career. She's still in post.
I
She's snatching defeat from the jaws of victory in a tactical sense.
My wife.
Yes, that was exactly what I had.
That's my wife. That's right. And so all of these leaks, it's look, if you're the government, right, putting Unburnt Witch 1963XX in charge of the EHRC, right, that would be enough to carry out what is essentially, as we talked about before, an elite-driven mission of demonizing trans people, denying them access to healthcare.
Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss.
Yeah.
Yes.
And again, it's worth drawing attention to the fact the EHRC cannot change the law. They can issue interpretations of the law, but as we've seen with Texas only a few days ago, that's enough to really cause a major pain in the arse. And not just pain in the arse. It's potentially enough to cost some people their life.
Yeah. And again, it's to do with another one of those words that seems neutral or positive, safeguarding.
Yeah.
Right. But
what they're really doing is stochastic terrorism is the technical term.
Yeah. And as was the Trojan horse thing was about safeguarding. Again, a perennial sort of concern, a perennial stalking horse.
It's one of the
stalking Trojan horse.
One of the things that actually these very, and I want to shift over to the US now, right? But even in the UK to a slightly lesser extent, but in the US to a much greater extent, it doesn't remind me of essentially again a ruling class movement that is a very sort of small and elite and concerned with things like propriety or whatever, which it sort of seems to be in the UK. But in the US, it seems to be much closer to a satanic panic.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, right? We've talked before about, in particular with Patrick Wyman, about local elites in relation to US politics. And just by virtue of geography, the US has a lot more scope to be a local elite than the UK does. We don't have 50 states worth of legislators to fill. And I mean, I think that's the perfect position if you want to be a crank, if you want to be a transphobe, if you want to engage in any of these other sort of flights of whimsy. Being a local elite is a fantastic position because you'd have to do less work than if you're in central government. You have more time and you have more need to put your stamp on things and be remembered. And so consequently, that's why I think you see a lot of local councillors in the UK do it. But we don't have 100,000 local councillors, whereas the US kind of does.
Mhm.
And they also have an existing base for them to play to of the of the evangelical right, and that's very useful.
Let's not underestimate their influence in this as well.
Well, I think it's because this is where I see kind of the two different motive powers behind it. Where in the UK, it is an elite who have no allegiance to any particular political party, who just have a sense of sort of cultural solidarity with one another. But like Faulkner was a Lib Dem peer, for example.
Yeah. I mean, basically, British elite transphobia is like a lot of people who all went to school together and who all go to dinner parties together and are across, all three major parties, just essentially looking at what they imagine a trans person to be and just going like, ugh, and then just legislating off of that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there is a class in their minds. There is a class of people that they are defending on a basis for solidarity. In their minds, it's the defense of cisgender women, or as they call them, women
and girls.
But many of whom
women
are
and girls.
Many of whom are themselves.
Good evening, women and girls.
Many of whom are like themselves or their peers. Where in the U.S., it takes on a much more. And again, I think it's what I find very, very sort of notable about it. Right, is that it's the same political constituency that's pushing transphobia. That was also it's the same people who were against like ending segregation in the 1960s. And it's what I find sort of, and I take the argument that what the evangelical right in the U.S. hates is secularism. Like, no, that's not true. It's actually they were driven crazy by sort of segregation ending, and everything is sort of an outpouring of expressing of wanting to sort of damage the society that ended segregation.
Yeah, sort of reflected white supremacy. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably like another topic for another time to go into depth on the evangelical right. It's certainly not my area of expertise. But I agree with you, Alice, that like a lot of the UK-based transphobia is just people going, ugh, which is also why there's nothing that infuriates them more than like being hot. They hate that. They hate that.
It's an act of resistance.
It is. It is.
And
many of them are doing acts of resistance by not themselves being hot.
And so, one of the other things I sort of wanted to draw the comparison between, right, is we've talked about.
That's secret. Yeah. That's just for us, listener. You don't get to know what that is.
Yeah, we've talked about understanding sort of the these sort of political parties, these political movements as all part of the same ruling class movement, right? And understanding sort of how, and that when I look in the States, right, one of the things I see like as coming from a different kind of ruling class movement, a Christian nationalism, is in fact that the mechanisms by which sort of the sort of new transphobic orders in the States are to be enforced functions quite a bit like Prevent did here, where if you work in any kind of basically where in the UK Prevent turned everybody who worked in a public institution into an Islam police officer, more or less. Hey, sir, where were you going, sir or madam, with that?
You got a license for that.
Yeah, that's right. I only see on this license you only license for 4 pillars. Wait, 3 pillars. However, minus 1.
You just forget how many pillars there are in the 5 pillars of Islam.
B-boying, MCing.
I literally
Fundamentals.
You psyched me out so badly that much like the Ireland flag and the Côte d'Ivoire flag, despite being a Muslim, I'm still gonna have to check.
So
yes, it is the flag. Yeah. God, I'm not. I don't have a brain disease. I do remember the number 5 correctly.
But that you turn into a cop there. What we've done essentially in the US is what the transphobic movement in the UK has been dreaming of for a while. They've turned every public employee into a bathroom cop and have created a snitching.
Well, like there's this provision of mandatory reporting, which is pretty common internationally, where if you're in a position where you deal with vulnerable people, typically children, not exclusively, and you become aware of something which the government deems to be suspicious or dangerous or like threatening, you have a legal obligation to report that to the proper authorities. And what this is doing is what we're talking about specifically is the governor of Texas writing a letter to the Attorney General of Texas. This is not binding, but it does sort of make policy in terms of the enforcement of it, saying, okay, we will now add any form of like gender transition in children to this list of things which you are obligated to report to Child Protective Services.
Which is so wild to me because, like, there are some people out there who will be like, oh, like, children like shouldn't transition. There's such a thing as a trans child. And my counter argument to that is 2 words. And those 2 words are Kim motherfucking Petras. Like, the fact that we don't have proper trans healthcare for trans kids in this country, like, we're never going to win Eurovision if we don't catch up. Like, Germany has humiliated us with Kim Petras, and now, like, we could have, if we did this right, we could have thousands of Kim Petras, we could have a Kim Petras in every house in this country.
We cannot allow
Just
a Kim Petras cap.
And in fact, we will by law have a Kim Petras in every house.
God, I hope so.
That's right. And as I understand it, they cited Tavistock, correct?
Yeah. Well, they cited Tavistock version 1, which was since like retracted.
Which you're not supposed to do. You can't
because it
really
was thrown
do
out.
that.
Well, I think it's one of these things
That's my most lib thing is like, oh, in law school you'd get marked down for that because that's not a valid source.
Listeners, we are referring to Bell v. Tavistock version 1, the legal case that was overturned, not Tavistock the clinic.
And I mean, I think it's partly it shows that the people in power are going to do what they want, but also that these ruling class movements, well, I think what I was talking about earlier, right? They draw from different sources of political power. They do talk to one another and influence one another.
Yeah. And that there have been decisions in the US that have cited J.K. Rowling. Yeah, for real.
People versus
That's
fucking
a good
Harry
book.
Potter.
They love that book. There's a flying car that got stuck in a tree, and that's why
you can't fly a car into a tree.
She does.
In America.
Evidently, she writes compelling fiction.
I actually identify as a flying car stuck in a tree.
Oh my goodness! Welcome to trigonometry.
There we go. Oh, the trigonometry boys were on it today, baby.
No, right up. But I mean, I think
like no,
we're not discussing.
I wanted to. The last thing I want to talk about, right, is I want to sort of bring this together, sort of philosophically, right? Thinking about ideas and words, what they mean, how we use them, and these we can sort of add, I think, safeguarding, equality, human rights, division, these kinds of things, right? They're it is. I think it's worth. Well, it may seem obvious. I think it's worth remembering and thinking about the fact that they are fundamentally normative, right? They all refer to some ideal state inside the person's head. You'll never get away from. You'll never technocracy yourself away from the fundamentally politically charged nature of like something that as what it's supposed to seem, that's made to seem as innocuous as the concept of safeguarding.
Well, I'm not going to nail myself down to a particular theory of linguistic meaning it's by surprise on this podcast.
Now, I have this beetle in this box.
Fuck, do you? or do you not? But yeah, we're all wearing our berets, we're chain smoking our cigarettes, we're signing letters to the government saying that you should be allowed to have sex with children, and we're just saying...
We are not doing that.
We are not doing that.
Legally speaking, we are not doing that.
And we're saying
we're
that,
signing the letters, but only as a joke.
Yeah.
We're doing quotation marks around
the meaning of
Yeah.
words is defined by, power and etc. And like power is a technology of subjection, Foucault, and so on and so on. But yeah.
A man who really thought it was a good idea to have sex with children, but that's another matter. Yeah.
So I think it's. I just think
you should be putting the panopticon, bitch. Why does everything resemble the prison? I don't know. Maybe because you should be in one.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me there's a little boy looking at me?
Are you suggesting that like most of Foucault's writing was a kind of Havana syndrome of philosophy?
Yeah, sort of like internalized guilt and cope, maybe.
I think it is worth bearing in mind that like still trans people, we haven't been allowed to set any of these laws, and
No.
we don't even get invited to speak to people about them. Like more
Because we're extremists and trolls.
You've had more trans people in this studio than there have been in the House of Commons. Like,
and Alice still hasn't even been.
yeah,
That's right. That's right.
Alice is just like a face on a screen. Like,
Yeah.
There are more trans people in the studio right now.
yeah, than have been in the House of Commons. Like,
And I mean, like it's you can see them playing with their words, right? But what this all masks is, I think, fundamentally, whether it's the kind of nice genteel murderousness or the sort of roll call murderousness of the U.S., it masks a fundamental murderousness.
yeah, and I think also like returning to your theme of this season, which is that Britain is not a real country. I think that it belies this tendency in both transphobia and conservatism, which is why they go so well together, to just like be deliberately ignorant of things, to refuse to know things. And in particular, there's a YouTuber called Ian Danskin who runs Innuendo Studios, who's also hit upon this very good bit of political theory, where he says that conservatism is essentially about denying the contents of your own beliefs. And I think I see a lot of that reflected in British transphobia in particular. Like, no, like we don't hate trans people. Like, well, obviously, like the EHRC is here to protect like everyone's interest, including that of trans people. We just think that you should like fuck off and go away. And we don't see any problem in the fact that none of you have ever been allowed to like write any of these rules that we're using against you.
Well, I think that is a good a place as any to take the parachute attachments off of our BTGs and roll back into the garage.
BMDs.
God damn it.
Vladimir Putin is dropping the VDV into the Equalities and Human Rights Commission.
There's nothing further to say except President Putin, my gender yearns for freedom.
Yeah, leave the Ukrainians alone. Liberate us.
All right. Thank you very much for listening. And there's going to be a part 2 of this episode coming out in a couple of days where I read a little book.
No one else has read.
No one else has ever read.
Nish Kumar.
And we may bring in, let's just say, the full cast of a little podcast about what to do with James Bond to finish that with us.
Yeah.
So don't forget to check that out on the Patreon for
James Acasters
$5 a month. Maybe that'll be a lot. Maybe it'll be a little. Find out next week.
We've read a book. Let's crack on.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.